The annual enrollment period in the Medicare market means everybody involved in the Medicare market needs to step up their game. So that's what we're doing here at Neishloss & Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group, as we always do a podcast here at Neishloss, but this now is a podcast a little bit on steroids, a beefed up version of the podcast, as I'm your host, Mike Oste, and I'm going to be joined by Bob Grannan, who is the Managing Director of Sales and Marketing with Integrity Marketing Group, our parent company that we partner with a couple years in this, and it's a big deal right now in the Medicare market. So Bob, definitely appreciate you joining me. I know we talked before on the Neishloss podcast, so I'm happy to be able to speak with you again here. And I don't think there's anyone else better to be able to talk going on with even the final expense component than you. So first off, how are you doing, man?
Great day here, having a wonderful day, and looking
Awesome.
forward to what's coming up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think we all are. This is going to be a different AEP than in the past. For sure, it's going to be an historic AEP, but it's definitely going to be a very, very important one. So that might actually make this Insight event, that might make everything that we're doing and all FMO's doing and everything Integrity's doing even more important than ever before, because of the situation the world is in right now. So, Bob, I understand you have a deck to share, as we're going to go through your slides and kind of when you get there. So whenever you can share that with us so the people can follow along as we kind of dive in and talk about the opportunities there involved now with Aetna. And as you see it there, it's a perfect addition. I think that's a perfect thing to title it, and the perfect headline there for the Aetna sup. So Bob, I'm going to kind of give you the floor a little bit, and then I'll steer the ship with you in terms of what is offered in now this Aetna subcontract, why it's so important for agents to be working with Aetna, especially now on the sub side, especially now to be aware of the final expense component that is there, because the final expense segment of the industry sometimes doesn't get as much publicity as other ends. Sometimes agents focus in on Medicare and don't go to final expense, but it's absolutely very, very important. And I know that we talked on the previous podcast that it's one of those that if you're not bringing up and if you're not trying to sell final expense right now, you're really doing your clients a disservice.
I think that's right. You know, you mentioned earlier, Mike, the fact that
with even the final expense component than you. So first off, how are you doing, man?
Great day here, having a wonderful day, and looking
Awesome.
forward to what's coming up in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think we all are. This is going to be a different AEP than in the past. For sure, it's going to be an historic AEP, but it's definitely going to be a very, very important one. So that might actually make this Insight event, that might make everything that we're doing and all FMO's doing and everything Integrity's doing even more important than ever before, because of the situation the world is in right now. So, Bob, I understand you have a deck to share, as we're going to go through your slides and kind of what you put together for us here for this Insight meeting. Again, as I'm speaking with Bob Grannan, the Managing Director of Sales and Marketing with Integrity Marketing Group, as we're going to, whenever you can share that with us so the people can follow along as we kind of dive in and talk about the opportunities there involved now with Aetna. And as you see it there, it's a perfect addition. I think that's a perfect thing to title it, and the perfect headline there for the Aetna sup. So Bob, I'm going to kind of give you the floor a little bit, and then I'll steer the ship with you in terms of what is offered in now this Aetna subcontract, why it's so important for agents to be working with Aetna, especially now on the sub side, especially now to be aware of the final expense component that is there, because the final expense segment of the industry sometimes doesn't get as much publicity as other ends. Sometimes agents focus in on Medicare and don't go to final expense, but it's absolutely very, very important. And I know that we talked on the previous podcast that it's one of those that if you're not bringing up and if you're not trying to sell final expense right now, you're really doing your clients a disservice.
I think that's right. You know, you mentioned earlier, Mike, the fact that we're in, people get tired of using the word unprecedented times, but we're very unique times in terms of what's occurring, just like events like this where we're going virtual. But a reality, my friend, is that the need and the demand for coverage the need to protect families has never been greater. And the current situation with COVID-19 has brought top of mind awareness for our customers about the importance of taking action. So there could not be a better time to have this discussion, Mike.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be the case here, because you're going to have a lot of people that are faced with the humility of what's going on in the world, and maybe even more concerned about their health and what's going on in the world. But you want to make sure that regardless what happens, because there's only so much we can control, that you're best taken care of and your loved ones are best taken care of in the future. And it's not always a fun conversation, and sometimes a difficult conversation, we understand, for you agents to have, and maybe transitioning is difficult, but Bob will certainly give you some advice there. But it's very, very important and necessary to be able to discuss final expense as well, and certainly with your Medicare client. So if you're able to click through to the next slide there, Bob. And then as you see there on the screen, the need for final expense, it's pretty clear. You understand that 59% of Americans there who borrow coverage, don't have the option, don't have the ability to go into a $1,000 emergency expense. So anything there to add in terms of, elaborating on this slide here in terms of why this Accendo CVS product, obviously the brand names are there, but the final expense component to this is so important. And just really this highlights the situation that the majority of these customers might be in and why they need this coverage.
Sure. I think that as an agent who's been heavily focused on the Medicare market, we're not asking you to stop doing that. However, you have developed a relationship with clients, and these clients are looking for your counsel, your insight to help them protect their family in multiple ways. As this statistic shows you, if 59% of Americans would struggle to come up with $1,000, Mike, what would it take to come up with $10,000, $14,000, $5,000 to deal with an end-of-life expense?
Right.
It crippled the family, could literally cripple the family. A lot of agents say to themselves, well, why me? Why now? Again, I said earlier, you've developed this relationship with your customers. Can you imagine attending a wake, realizing they're using GoFundMe, or they don't plan at all, and you have not had a conversation with them? I don't know that I could go to the wake. I would feel a bit awkward to have not at least raised the question.
Right.
People don't have insurance, unfortunately, in many cases, just out of ignorance. They haven't thought about it. They haven't had the education and the conversation with an agent to help them understand what it does. And I can't emphasize enough, there is no product, nothing in America that does what life insurance does. It's just that simple. You hear all kind of pundits talk about whether you ought to invest your money and do these other kinds of things. Nothing does what life insurance does. And that statistic in the middle of the chart, it's so powerful. We are all going to die. Someone's going to pay.
Yeah.
You can make a difference. You can help someone plan for their financial security, not leave that burden on loved ones at one of the most difficult times in their life. It's a powerful, powerful opportunity. And when you have CVS as the recognized brand, you don't sit there trying to establish credibility in who you represent. You can say to someone, I represent, this company is a Fortune 5 company. I represent one of the largest, most respected, responsible organizations in the industry. Sort of done your shopping for you. I can make it easier for you to make a decision. It's powerful. It's a powerful, powerful opportunity.
It really is. And as you said, we're all going to die, and that's the mortality that we're all faced with, but it's also expensive to die. It is unfortunately expensive to die here as we move through these slides. But as you can see, you have that CVS relationship, you have that branding, and the situation that it's expensive to die. And a lot of Americans are in a situation where they can't come up with $1,000 right away off of an emergency. That really shows you how much they would need this coverage, because also, as Bob will get to, there's coverage for everybody. You can find an option for everyone.
That's exactly right. You know, we with Nislas and Fleming, this is a truly a lead company with them. a strong company that can provide coverage to an awful lot of Americans. There are cases where someone has extreme health issues and you may need to look at another product, but this product gives you the chance to really address people from ages 40 to 89 potentially. We talk about the cost. If you have taken out a MedSup policy with Aetna or one of the Aetna affiliated companies in the past 6 months that's been underwritten, you also have a chance to get even a further reduction in the cost of this insurance. Just an incredible opportunity. We call it the super preferred rate. Again, sometimes folks will say, I don't know that I can afford insurance. I'm an insurance poor. I'm going to tell you what, no one has rejected a check at the time of death. No one has had more money than they needed at that time of death. It just doesn't work that way. And the reality is you cannot afford not to have this coverage.
Right.
Without coverage, with the burden that is faced with this, Mike, you know what's sad is families lose their homes. Families can't stay together. The loss of losing a loved one is bad enough, and now you can't maintain a lifestyle. This is where we need to be serious about taking advantage of these opportunities. What's also cool about this, Mike, in my view, is this process is very simple for the agent. If you're not accustomed to life insurance, don't get intimidated. If you're familiar with Aetna, terrific, because the tools they use are to look extremely familiar to you, very familiar to you.
Right.
The application, Mike, you don't need to pick the product. You ask the questions, you record the answers, and the application will tell you the best value for the customer, the best value.
Yeah.
Use the electronic app, as we talk about a little bit further. Heck, you can get a decision for many of your customers within 90 seconds. It's simply amazing. Fair prices, solid commissions, and real value to the customer, which is huge. And oh, by the way, I received a statistic the other day, Mike, that just blew me away. Over 14 million people today have a MedSup policy. Over 44% are shopping. Every year they take a look at their case. Roughly 10% make a change. So is there an opportunity to get people to this preferred rate? Yes, there is. Is I'm going to get it? No. But my goodness, at least explore it with them and show them that you're taking their best interest in mind as you put together a recommendation for them. Just a real opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't bring it up, you're not going to know their need and you're not going to know the true opportunity. And as you see here, as Bob breaks down the actual numbers here and more of the figures, and I think one of the major things that you touched on, the age range there of 40 to 89, that's big because there's been final expense products in the past that didn't have that broad of an age range. So that really does handle pretty much every one of your clients and then some. Even in fact, you could be talking to Medicare for a client and maybe their grandson or granddaughter wants to think about this as well that's not even in the Medicare age because of that broad age range and the availability of that. And then you go down here to this is big, and I'll let Bob expand on this, the flexible coverage amounts with a low minimum policy requirement of $2,000. So that's, again, as we touched on earlier, something for everyone. Again, speaking with Bob Grannan, the Managing Director of Sales and Marketing with Integrity Marketing Group here. I'm your host, Mike Oste. And Bob, yeah, if you want to, dive in and expand on any one of these figures here, I think that's major, the $2,000 minimum policy requirement.
Yeah, and I really do want to place some emphasis. If you look back to one of our previous slides where it said that 56% of Americans, I believe was actually 59% of Americans would borrow or struggle to come up with $1,000. If you have been involved in final expense planning, you know the cost is much larger than that.
Right.
Now you say, well, what does $2,000 do for you? It does a lot. I can tell you two things. One is if you have zero, I'll tell you which pocket I'll pick.
Sure.
Right? Maybe you have a customer, you said, there's a couple of great questions you can ask your customers to explore this life insurance side. One of them is to ask, what sort of life insurance program do you have in place? How long have you had it in place? Are you still making premium payments? If it's been an extended period of time, you have to wonder, is it still appropriate for your needs? For example, maybe you bought a $10,000 policy thinking at the time 10 years ago that was enough. Well, inflation alone says we need more than 10. So maybe you add 2, add 3, add 4, add 5, add 10. But you can add to that to help the person, but also meet their budget. Life insurance is only good if it's in force. That means you paid the premiums. Life insurance that was taken out and paid premiums for a few weeks and dropped is of no value whatsoever. So you have the ability, once a person qualifies, to determine how much coverage they can afford to work within their budget and provide the coverage they need. It really does give you that flexibility. The other thing, so many of your customers, all your customers, I shouldn't say all, but from a Medicare standpoint, most of them are 65 plus, which means they're receiving some sort of Social Security payment. You can set up the timing to coincide with that exact day that they're getting their payment. They get their payment from the United States government, the dollars come out to pay their insurance. There's not a lot of worry about, did they remember to pay you? Did it come out on time? Did it get adjusted for a holiday? All those things are taken into consideration to make it simple and easy for someone to do this. You'll notice under this quoting process, life insurance, it's always a little awkward when you have to ask height and weight. People tend to be taller than they think they are, and they actually are. Don't know about you, but that happens to me.
I know my license says 5'11", and I like to tell people 6 foot, just because that's an even, a round number there. That's what I want to go with. So I try to fudge that as well.
Well, as you get older, you say, that's when I ask your height, you say today or when I was 30.
Right. Yeah.
Up a little bit.
Right.
Well, you don't have to ask a height and weight question. You're not putting a person on the spot. If you get an answer and someone gives you their weight and you look at them and go, oh, my goodness, you may have been that weight at one point in time. I think that's where you are today. You don't have to go through that discussion. Ask the health questions, get the answers to the health questions, and move on. It it just simplifies the process, and it is so much smoother when you work through it. And we really have, I don't know, Mike, that I've seen an electronic application any smoother, simpler than this one. Click and point, read, click, point. It is just very, very fluid. And by the way, you could actually take MedSup app, a supplemental health app, along with this application in sequence. Go through one, start the other.
Yeah, and that's what we recommend to a lot of agents too, because you do get this final expense component, as I mentioned at the top of the show, as part of the Aetna subcontract. So it makes it even more of a necessity to have that contract in your portfolio if you're a serious agent, especially this year in Medicare, because you have the ability to transition very seamlessly right into final expense. So it actually will get rid of the maybe awkwardness of having to bring it up. Say, well, we're already here. We know what's happening in the world with the pandemic. We certainly want to take care of your loved ones. We want you to be taken care of. And I guarantee we can get something taken care of for you.
Well, there's no doubt. And as you mentioned to it earlier, let's be real clear to everybody that if you have a MedSup contract with CVS Aetna, you automatically are Accendo. Realize you got a number of corporations here.
Right.
You automatically have your life appointment, assuming you have the appropriate state licenses and
right.
But they will automatically appoint you. Nothing more you need to do.
Right.
And on the computer, you just select the product you're working with, and it's makes it about as simple as you can find it in doing that. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of why I tried to say it's the final expense component to that Aetna subcontract, because it is a part of that. There's nothing else you need to do, and that makes it even more of a necessity to have that contract here as we work through these slides here. Again, Bob Grannan, Managing Director of Sales and Marketing here with Integrity Marketing Group, as we are discussing the final expense, the Accendo version here of Aetna, the CVS relationship that they have. So that's other major branding. And as you see here, when Bob, jumps in even further in terms of what's going on, you can include a child rider, you can include a grandchild rider, you have competitive rates for sure.
Yeah, these riders, it's interesting. We want to make sure we cover the most important thing, and that's end of life expenses.
Right.
But, this child and grandchild rider, you can draw on a person's heartstrings by saying, let's help this young person get their program started ahead of the time maybe you got yours started. The least expensive time to buy life insurance is when you're young and when you're especially healthy. You become less healthy, not more healthy.
Yeah.
So if we take out this rider, up to 9 kids, by the way, our grandchildren or some combination, and by the way, take care of 5 of them now. Next year, your granddaughter has a baby, add that one on. You can add it to the policy. Mm-hmm. But at conversion, ages 22 to 25, these can be converted to a whole life policy that they'd pay premiums for life and have coverage. I say, what a wonderful gift to give a 22-year-old who's just starting out their life, starting to think about what's possible, thinking about their savings plans, their growth plans, have a life insurance policy as an anchor in that financial plan. I think that is just an incredible way to begin, an incredible gift to give someone to help them have that get started. So it's a great, great, great tool there. Mm-hmm. It's accelerated death benefit rider. Now, and there is a charge per child for this rider. I think it's a very modest amount, but there is a charge there. For the accelerated death benefit rider, there's no additional premium, and it's something that if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, you can elect to get an early payout of up to 50% of the policy. Someone says, well, great, now I'm going to die. This is like my money out. Well, guess what? There are people who use the money for experimental treatment. You're now trying to figure out everything you can. Number 2, somebody's maybe healthy enough. They say, look, I've always wanted to go to Europe. I'm going to go to Europe. You have the money to do that. Yeah. You use the money however you want. And having done that, you haven't eliminated all of your life insurance because at least 50% is still there to take care of those into life expenses. I think it's a terrific option.
Right.
The one is this accidental death. You can actually double the face amount of your policy with this rider. And some people say, well, what's the chances of me dying as a result of an accident? Well,
you never know. That's why it's an accident.
That's right. We don't know. Number one, we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know how we're going to die. And they did a survey one time I thought was quite interesting. They said, if you knew if you could be told when you're going to die, would you want to know? Everybody said no. You want to know how you're going to die? We'll tell you. I don't want to know.
Right.
Now I have preferences as I imagine at times. But this accidental death benefit rider, accidents are in the top 10 reasons people die every day. We just had a tragedy here in North Carolina, floods.
Right. Yeah.
You heard the story. Mother was driving down the road. The road had washed away. She went into a sinkhole, took her vehicle into a river. They have found one of the children, did not survive, and they still have not found the other child. Folks, stuff happens every day. I get chills mentioning it. Just pick up the newspaper. If you want to have a conversation with a customer about planning for the future, pick up the newspaper. Forget COVID. Other stuff happens every day.
Sure.
In North Carolina, Mike, we have an Interstate 40 that runs from the East Coast to the West Coast. Interstate 40 runs all across North Carolina. We're kind of a horizontal state, I call it. Every day, someone pulls onto Interstate 40 that does not come off alive. Every day, at least a person pulls on the interstate, doesn't come off alive. Things happen, folks. Accidents happen, and life insurance is there to help. It's just a reality, and being there at that kind of time of need is just powerful. It's powerful. And I want to come back to Neisloss and Fleming and the value proposition. It's partnership with integrity. They will provide you with the products that are only the best in the industry. Guess what? We want the best carriers to represent, like CVS and Aetna.
Right.
You know what? Those companies want the best people representing them. Value Neisloss and Fleming.
Yeah.
Right? We choose each other. This is not a one-sided deal. So we feel strongly about that, and we feel we can, in fact, change lives, and we have the chance to change lives all across America.
And I couldn't echo those sentiments more. Certainly, the relationship between Neisloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group makes this it's taken our business to the next level, but it is really a partnership in every sense of the word. And as you see here now in this slide from Bob, the footprint of the product is certainly vast already throughout the country, and where this is possible.
Yeah, we have right now this product, folks, is available in 44 states. We have a few that we're still working on the approvals. And something else to share with those individuals who have really been focused on the Medicare market. This thing was something I had trouble putting my arms around Mike years ago. Medicare varies by state, by county.
Yeah.
Gosh, maybe it breaks down further than that. You can I have trouble keeping up with it. The great thing about this product, Mike, is the product and the benefits and the application are essentially the same in every state. I say essentially the same. In Washington State, the minimum face amount is $5,000 versus $2,000. That's one difference. Application same. The health questions are the same. Oh, and by the way, premiums are the same. Premiums are the same.
And that's really nice because, as you know, there's a lot of agents that have multiple states, that they have their home state, but they're also licensed in other states.
Sure. And please make sure you do that. You do need to use the application for the state of residence of that individual. So that's what you use, not necessarily where you are, but where that individual resides is important. But the premiums are the same, the commission levels. One thing I like about commissions is they don't change by age of the customer. They're all the same. And it doesn't vary by state, and there's no variety in terms of exactly, something changes one state to the next. I will say in Pennsylvania, they do require a special disclosure form. So when you go on to the electronic application, it's going to have all the forms there. You don't need to worry about what you need. It's going to tell you. Matter of fact, this special disclosure form in Pennsylvania, it actually completes the data for you. You don't have to do anything special. It's just there.
Right.
It's part of the deal. So this electronic process makes it go very smoothly. If you use a paper app, there are these additional forms to complete. And we'll talk a little bit more about this paper app and how to take advantage of electronics and technology here in just a moment. But this map, we're excited about where all we are. We clearly are eager to get our big states of Michigan, California, Florida, Connecticut, and of course Massachusetts on there. Delaware has been approved, coming soon, so we're going to see that in October. But we continue to cross our fingers and push and hope and encourage with our CVS friends to get these other states approved. They will come. The only state that we are not actively pursuing at this time, Mike, is New York. New York is just a tough state to do business in. And
it is.
If I were a betting man, at some point in time, it wouldn't surprise me for us to do business there. But unfortunately, right now, that's not an option for us.
Yeah, no, it is a little different of a ball game for anyone who's familiar with what's going on in New York, for sure. But yeah, it just shows you what's going on here. And as we get through now to actually be able to do these apps, and as Bob alluded to be able to actually enroll these clients here, because again, speaking with Bob Grannan, the managing director of sales and marketing with Integrity Marketing Group, about the Accendo, the CVS relationship, the final expense component of that Aetna sup contract for you, the agents, here is a major deal here, as we want to give a lot of time to here in our insight event. So Bob, yeah, it does look simple. I mean, you have this eApp process, and this is big because obviously we're dealing with a global pandemic and people going online and maybe not comfortable meeting you face to face and having to use enrollment platforms like, say, MedicareCenter.com for certain carriers. But this here certainly makes this easier with the Accendo.
It sure does. And in addition to taking electronic app face-to-face, as you alluded to, Mike, this can be used over the phone. You call the customer. The only electronic activity is you must have their email address to send them a packet of information. Once you've done that, you do nothing else. You just take your application over the phone, speaking to them. When you get to the point of a signature, you're going to ask them for a question. What's the name of your pet? You're going to ask a question. You will record that and then ask permission to apply their signature. That's all it takes. And guess what? With this electronic app, half of the time, you're going to get a decision within 90 seconds, approved or declined. But if not, one of those two decisions, it's referred to an underwriter, and within 2 days, you're going to get an answer to that question. So a great tool. I alluded to earlier, one other point I'd like to make is if you do take a paper app, you're in a home, the internet doesn't work, your computer battery dies, heaven forbid, you can take a paper app, and when you get back to your office, key that into the computer. You convert it to an electronic app, Mike. Yeah. Keep the paper app in your records because you need that record of a signature. But at the end of the electronic process, you indicate you took the app face-to-face, you submit it through your computer, bingo. Quicker submission, accurate submission. You don't forget something because the computer keeps us honest, keeps us from forgetting the obvious, and quick, and also accelerate our ability to get paid on a very, very timely basis. Just an excellent, it's a great tool to have in your hands as you go out there and sit down with customers.
It definitely seems that way for sure. In terms of everything that's available to agents, as you see there, in terms of their suggestions, in terms of using this on social media, and this is so important too. And we have a relationship with an agent who really dives into this too, that we explain on pretty much every call, and certainly can get into throughout this Insight event on what being on social media and what marketing on social media can do for you, the agent. Because if you're not there, you're just missing out on potential leads. And that is another avenue that is certainly big now and bigger than ever before because of the pandemic here.
For sure. You know, I think one of the key tools when you're face to face with a customer is this brochure. And the brochure reinforces everything we've been talking about so far. The boldness on the front cover of who CVS is. You know, you saw a slide earlier, 70% of Americans live within 3 miles of a CVS.
That's a staggering number. I remember when we were doing the podcast, I was aware of the number, but it just refreshed in my mind and I just couldn't believe it. But when you drive around, I see a CVS everywhere, no matter where I am. So it makes sense.
Well, it does. And, you know, they're advertising very strongly on TV now. So we convey to a person the power of the brand. We convey to the person, you know, why should you cover final expense? You know, why is that so important? I love this brochure because it lets me use one of my most popular phrases when I'm sitting down with a customer, and I can say to them, let me show you something. You can look each other in the eye for a period of time, but every now and then we need a little break. Well, let's have a break to something relevant. I call it a third-party influence. Let me show you something. Flip through this book, and as you're talking, your credibility goes up because this tool reinforces why CVS, why final expense, why the certain dollar amount of final expense. And on the back page gives you a chance to record the amount of coverage, the date it's coming out, your name, your phone number, so they can stay in touch with you if you have any questions. So it's an excellent tool. You can order these online. You can print one off if you need one in a hurry. But these tools are just extremely valuable to folks to help convey the message to people. Well, as we said earlier, this is a great addition because customers, you think about a person's life, we have all sorts of risks. We buy auto insurance to protect risks there. We buy our homeowner's insurance to protect our home and assets there. We buy health insurance for obvious reasons. Insurance is another component. So when an agent says, you know, why? Well, this complements what you already have, and you can do it with a carrier who's already quite highly regarded. It lets you do that in a very simple fashion with the potential, and I have to emphasize potential, not everyone's going to qualify, but with the potential to even get an extremely good price in terms of the product. You know, it's just kind of hard to beat. Really.
It really is, and it's really something that needs to be brought up. And as we talked about in the top of the program here in this segment, and There you see it there. Nearly 70% of Americans live within 3 miles of a CVS pharmacy. You have a major brand in Aetna that I'm sure you're all aware of. You have a major brand in CVS that's all over the place. So it's going to be very difficult for you or a client to say that you're not able to get to a CVS, because Mr. Grannan and I will be able to throw that number to you and say, hey, there are some, but that, it's still not too far, and it's certainly not the majority of people out there. And those brand names add a sense of comfort. Clients like hearing brand names, especially now with the way the economy is and a lot of things in flux. They know that that brand name is going to be around. The Aetna brand name is going to be around. Integrity, Nischloss, we're going to be around. So those are comforting brand names to have.
Well, I think the partnership, just to add a little emphasis to what you just said, Mike, is powerful. Most of the people on this call know that Nischloss and Fleming is a multi-generational business. Mm-hmm. The people in the organization today give no question in my mind that's going to continue. Integrity, the partners that make up this organization have an incredible amount of experience in the industry and are truly the trendsetters and those who are formulating kind of the direction and responding to what customers need going forward. Right. There's a statistic I did mention earlier that I think is worth commenting, and that is almost 50% of Americans either don't have insurance, don't have enough, or maybe they have the wrong kind. And somebody says, what do you mean the wrong kind? And I want to mention this real quick, if I may, and that is, sure, term insurance is good. The fact is, though, fortunately, most of us outlive the term. 98% of Americans outlive the term of their term insurance policy. That's great news.
That's wow. That's a bigger number than I would have thought, but that's fantastic.
It's phenomenal. What that says is, another way, is 2% of term insurance policies pay a death benefit. Well, you got to just think about that. We saw that statistic earlier. 100% of the people are going to die. Somebody's going to pay. So having a permanent policy in place is important. Term is incredibly important, but we got to make sure it's there long enough to take care of it. With the extended life expectancy in America, when my parents were young, if a person lived much past 65, that's a big deal. Now the numbers are starting to get into the mid 80s. Right. And who knows where that's going to go. So having that kind of policy in place and having a full life coverage in place is just so important to folks to keep that financial security there.
Absolutely. I think that's really hitting the nail on the head and kind of summarize where we are as we kind of round things out here. Again, speaking with Bob Grannan, the Managing Director of Sales and Marketing with Integrity Marketing Group, who we here at Nischloss and Fleming have partnered with. We've been partnered with for a couple of years now, and certainly has taken our business to the next level. And this is why we do events like this, a little different than normal. We're not able to go to a major facility and have a meet and greet necessarily. We're doing all this virtually, but that's the way of the world. And bringing up, and you hit it when you said they may have the wrong coverage. It's not to say that any type of coverage isn't better than no coverage, but you want to make sure that you're getting everything that really could help you, and you're finding plans, and you're having conversations that need to be had to really serve the client the best way possible. And if you're not bringing up, if you have Aetna Sup and you're talking about Aetna Sup, certainly if you're talking about Aetna and you're not bringing up the Accendo final expense with this CVS relationship, then you're really not serving the client the best that they could be served. This is the way to take care of them the best possible way.
It sure is. And just a couple of kind of summary comments I'd like to share with the group, Mike, and that is, sometimes a person who's been focused on a particular type of insurance with their customers, specifically say it's Medicare, and you've not had this conversation, you may say to yourself, why should I do this? Why now? And I guess there's a couple real good answers to that. Number one, as I said earlier, you built trust with these folks. Don't let them be exposed to a risk that you can help them address. Don't let yourself ever be in a position where you find out one of your customers used GoFundMe to keep their family together because you hadn't had that conversation. Roughly half of Americans have a need. Look left, look right. Somebody needs to have a conversation, and it's education. You're going to help people through education go from a point of where you feel like you might be selling to where they are buying. They are choosing what they want to do. You can help. How do you get started? I think it's pretty simple, and it's not uncharacteristic of what you do in other aspects of life. Set a few goals. Set a goal on the number of people you want to have a conversation with. Start the conversation. If you set that goal itself, you will in fact help them get to the point where you are really exploring what they need. And you can give them those options. Life events, this pandemic we're dealing with, but just people retiring, people purchasing a new home. 10,000 people turn 65 every day. That's going to happen for another 15 years. These events cause people to think about what's going on.
Right.
You have the chance to give them this peace of mind. You also have the chance to supplement your income. There's a great commission paid on these products, a little something extra. You go out and get 3 cases issued and paid, you get a $200 bonus. I think that's pretty cool. So we have a chance to make a positive difference. You have a chance to make a positive difference. And I tell you what, I try not to pass up opportunity. I think this is a great opportunity. It is an unusual period of time. But I tell you what, we can take advantage of this to the benefit of everyone that's a party to this, to what's going on today in America.
It really is a terrific opportunity. And again, if you're not bringing it up, then you're just kind of leaving something out that really could help serve the clients. And the way the world is today, there's really nothing, there's no stone that should be left unturned in terms of your healthcare, in terms of taking care of the family, in terms of life insurance, and in terms of now this final expense. Bob, I absolutely appreciate the time for sure. Glad to spoke with you on a podcast. Glad to speak with you here for our Insight event. I'm sure we'll be talking in the future as we keep up this tag team of sorts here for these broadcasts to get out to agents and to the clients. Bob Grannan, again, Managing Director of Sales and Marketing with Integrity Marketing Group. And I'm Mike Oste here for all of us here at Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group. That's it for this one as we move further on in our Insight event. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.